Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltiziak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. Welcome to another episode. In episode 240, we discussed the Detroit Lions' 44-30 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk about those words, complementary football. We'll discuss what went well in the game, all the areas of concern, including the Brian Branch injury, and any other major storylines. That and more. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
This is Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
Joining me today is Coach Jerry Angers, former Michigan High School Coach of the Year. He was also named Coach of the Week by the Detroit Lions. He is the scouting and training director for Bull Rush Sports. Coach, happy victory day after.
1-0, baby. And we punched the Cowboys in the face. That's all I'm saying.
And that's a 1-0 we needed. We needed that this week for a variety of reasons. Joining us to discuss those reasons and more is the senior sports writer for the Traverse City Record Eagle. He is also the sports writer of the year for Community Newspaper Holdings Incorporated. That is James Cook. James, as usual, good to have you here.
Happy Victory Friday.
That it is. You know what else is happy? Drinking coffee in cold weather, folks. And you know what? Our show is brought to you by Roaster Jack Coffee Company. They're out of northern Michigan in Traverse City. They've been doing this for a while, more than 2 decades, and it's perfect for just you, the individual pour over, or brewing a pot for the whole crew. If you go to roasterjack.com, you use the code LIONS, it'll get you 20% off the order, and it might just be that perfect stocking stuffer. All right, folks. We got to get to overall reaction time in a sentence or two. James, get us started.
I had a good feeling coming into this game, and the Lions made that come true. So I'm happy for that.
All right, that was quite brief. I will go second, and Coach will probably be even more verbose than me. And I'm warning you, I'm a little verbose on this one. I'm going to say I didn't know what to expect going into this game. This game was a barometer for me. Didn't know how it was going to go, but I knew however it went was going to heavily influence on what I thought for the rest of the season. Wasn't perfect by any means, but this looked like the team we've known and grown to love the last couple years. And so I'm saying with that victory, I feel like there's a chance. We'll get into what all that means later, though. Coach, how about you?
I got 2 things on it. The Native Americans in Sutton's Bay, who I'm working with, say that eagle flying over is a good luck sign. So at about 8:20 yesterday morning, sitting looking out at the lake, drinking a cup of Roaster Jack coffee, here comes an eagle flying right at my house. So I felt really good about that. And then to sum it up, Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football this morning said, eating kneecaps, not steak and lobster. Grit, not just the word stenciled on the wall. There's no doubt that's what that team. We were eating kneecaps yesterday, and grit's not just the word stenciled on the wall.
There you go. I like that. I like that a lot. And, you know, we kind of talked about that, the type of people the Lions have brought in this building. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that's what was embodied in that game yesterday. You saw it. And some might argue you saw it on both sidelines going in different directions at different times or different sides of the field. So let's talk about the turning points, the pivotal moments. I'm going to argue the first pivotal moment happened before the game even started, Coach. You said in a text message, I said, what are we thinking? You said, if he can play, he will play.
Mm-hmm.
And he played. Amon-Ra St. Brown being active and starting was huge for this team. Huge. Coach, a player like that playing, let's not even get into the stats, just what it means for him to be out there on the field to the team. How big of a deal was this?
It's huge. I mean, your morale as a team, you know that he's a dog. You know he's going to fight. He's going to do whatever he can to get on the field. And when he walks out, you know, in pregame and he's bouncing around, I had one of my fantasy guys text me and say, hey, you probably should drop St. Brown. He's injured and he's probably not playing today. And I said, let's let the coach determine that. And then I sent him the inactive list, and I said, I guess somebody's a little bit ahead of you. But from a coaching standpoint, from a team standpoint, he's the heart and soul of this team. He's the grit of this team, and we have a ton of those guys, but they feed off that guy, and it just you can't even fathom. And then what does the crowd do when he runs out? Oh my God! So thank you, St. Brown.
For sure. And first catch of the game made by Amon-Ra St. Brown. The last catch of the game made by Amon-Ra St. Brown, James. The guy just continues to show why he is everything, everybody has believed him to become over these few years in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't see any. I mean, the ankle didn't look bad. He had what, 6 catches in the game.
Yeah.
Ended up making NFL history during this game as well. He had recording the most receptions through a player's first 5 seasons, with 511 in 5 seasons. So that's averaging over 100, over 100 catches a season. That sixth one was the one that put him at 511 and surpassed the record held by Michael Thomas from the New Orleans Saints.
That's an impressive record, and it took an impressive performance. And that's the thing, right? While he got the record, I think it was a type of game he had to play and the injury he had to overcome that really embodies the type of wide receiver that he is and how much he means to this team. And something hidden in that is, honestly, this isn't a turning point, but it could be a pivotal moment, is because he didn't practice all week, Coach, Isaac Tesla got those first team reps all week. And that translated over, even if, it was only two or three passes thrown his way, he had a couple of catches, but that experience, that accelerates your learning curve, right?
For sure. Now he's looking at it going, oh, I'm the guy. He wasn't just thrown into the game because Saint got hurt. He was able to practice and get those reps in there. The other thing, too, Saint, when I don't know if it was last night or today, he said that he knew 2 days or 3 days ago that he was going to play. Even though he wasn't practicing. So again, by him saying that, Dan Campbell and the offensive staff was using Tesla in certain situations, but they were also getting him into that third receiver set, that third receiver, and now you got a guy that's looking at, he could be number one, but hey, if I'm number three, and he may have been relaxed even more when Saint decided to play, and now hey, I'm jumping on it. I'm the third receiver, but yeah, just and again, Tesla's growth comes off of feeding off of what Saint does for this team.
Yeah. And again, just what he does to that offense, having him out there is huge because it also takes pressure off Jamison Williams because coverage can't blanket him the way they could in the previous game against the Packers, as well as he did in that game. It allowed defenses to, adjust and go that route. All right, so that's one of the pivotal moments. Coach, I think you probably want to go turnovers on defense. I think we start with that Jack Campbell forcing the turnover. The game was 10-6 at that point. The Lions get the ball. Monty scores from 35 yards out. That makes it 17-6. And that was a twofold thing, right? Defense causing turnovers and the Lions offense capitalizing on the turnovers. A couple of things that they've really struggled to do a good chunk of the year.
Yes, for sure. And I think we talked about it. We had to win the turnover battle. All day yesterday, I'm going, all we need is 2 turnovers. All we need to do is have 2 turnovers. For myself, from a coaching standpoint, that's what I was thinking. And of course, we ended up with 3. And here's the other thing too. Off of 2 of those 3 turnovers, we had points, as in 7, scored off of 2 of those turnovers. So that's 14 points on 2 of the 3 turnovers. Darn it, the third one we didn't get. But we got to get into the best formation in football called victory formation off of that third turnover.
For sure. Yes, it was great. And again, that first turnover allowed us to push the lead up a little bit. And then the other turnover, third quarter. I mean, if you look at the sequence of events, the Cowboys get a touchdown. I was like, oh, they're going to double up. Or not touchdown. They got a field goal before halftime. They're going to get the ball coming out. Well, we hurry down. We get a field goal. Then coming out second half, interception. Barnes takes it. And then it was right after the Campbell interview. I know the interview was filmed like 10 minutes earlier, but it was aired. And we've seen this happen before. And then right after it gets done airing, the interception happens. The Lions take a 20-9 lead. They push it to 27-9, James. And so that's 2 right there. Turnovers. And as coach said, 7 points off each turnovers. those are game-changing things.
Yeah, and it changed the game. I mean, it made it so that was completely chasing the Lions defense could just the defensive line could just pin their ears back and just go after the quarterback. And we saw what happened with that. That they had, I think, one of their better days of the year so far. And so I think that touchdown, that's making it 27-9, it just seemed huge. I mean, it put the Lions fully in control. It had the Cowboys totally on their heels, and just just gave the Lions whatever they wanted, kind of.
All right, James, was there anything else that stuck out as a pivotal moment or a turning point in the game before we move into what we liked?
I got a lot of them what I like.
All right, Coach, same for you.
And I'm gonna pivotal moment for me. And again, I want to bring that up. The first play of the game, Saint making that catch. And I know there's a thousand other things out there, but from a coaching standpoint, from a sideline stand, again, we already talked about him playing, but for them to throw the first ball to him, what Dan Campbell did was got his hands wet, his feet wet, his ankle worked on immediately to say he is okay, and then he doesn't think about it. Yeah, unbelievable coaching. I'm telling you, just from a coaching standpoint, there's unbelievable coaching on my part or thinking about Dan Campbell. Get him involved immediately, and guess what? The ankle's ready to go. And you always have to take that first hit or something on it. He got twisted up pretty good. He was bouncing on the sidelines a little bit, checking the ankle. I'm sure everybody saw that because the camera went to him. But rest is history.
All right. Well, let's start talking about some of that history. All right. There's a lot to like in this game. The Dallas Cowboys came in on a 3-game winning streak, a very hot team, a very proficient offense, a much improved defense, and the Lions did a lot of things to stymie all of those. But James, get us started. What's something you want to hit on that you liked?
I like that David Montgomery was more of a factor in this game.
Mhm.
6 carries for 60 yards, scored a touchdown. And that one kind of long run of his was sprung by a pretty nice block by Isaac Tesla, and I think on a linebacker coming across.
For sure. Yeah, David Montgomery was great. 60 yards, 10 carries, long of 35. And he also had a catch for 13. I'm not against Jahmyr Gibbs. I love Jahmyr Gibbs just as much as anybody else, but I really like David Montgomery a lot. I've always liked him and greatly appreciated him, as I've said before on this show, from the time he was a rookie in Chicago. I always thought he was underutilized there. The Lions utilized him a lot more, but he has something that I think a lot of people always or often underestimate of what he can do. And I just love it when him and Gibbs are on the field at the same time. And I know Gibbs took a 13-yarder to the house up the middle for a touchdown, and that's why they had him in there. But I also can't help but wanting to have Montgomery in there as well. You can never have too much Montgomery, and I get it that you got Gibbs, coach. It's a great problem to have, as I've said sometimes. That's something you love to have, but man, Montgomery was looking good.
Yeah, he was. And again, they talk about complementary football all the time. We got complementary backs. They can
Yeah,
both do anything. And let's talk about that. We went to, and I didn't go, I haven't broken down yet whether it was zone concept or just dual base blocking concept with Monty, and he's going to carry you for 4 or 5 yards. And Gibbs is more of the outside zone guy, inside zone guy. But they set all that up with Monty running it, and then Gibbs comes in and they run same thing for that 13-yard touchdown. He put his foot in the dirt, he accelerated, and he ran through a tackle. So right now, there's nothing a defense coordinator can do to say, "Oh, Monty's in." I don't know what to do. And again, the complimentary part with Monty running the football and Gibbs catching the football. And again, if he's not, we're not going to get him loose on the run game. Then let's get him loose. And man, did he break some ankles? Oh, but back to Monty. I'm sorry, his just hard nose. And again, everybody feeding off each other. That's what we've been looking for all year.
well, yeah, the running game in general was pretty efficient. If you get rid of the even including Malik Cunningham's 1 yard carry and Jared Goff's 2 kneel downs for -2 yards, the Lions still averaged 5 yards a carry. They had 109 yards rushing, and they did that on 22 carries. Again, that's only 19 carries if you get rid of those three. That is efficiency. And the running game was great. And you talked about, I mean, that play that they showed the replays on the defender just like going out of bounds and Gibbs stopping. Um, James, the running game in general was effective enough. You know, it's one of those things where it's still a bit of explosives here and there. It's not what it was last year, but it was enough, right? Is that how you would kind of characterize it?
Yeah, especially for having to, move things around in your offensive line and use a different combination again this year, a whole new combination. I think they did pretty well for in the run game, especially, and just getting Montgomery some consistent carries, I think, is going to be huge. You know, you can't be. I mean, Gibbs had what, 19 touches total because he had 7 catches.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that's necessarily the workload you want him to have every game. So to take a few of those away to Montgomery, who is completely capable and showed that in this game, I think is something that's going to help the team in the long run. It's going to help Jameer, extend the career and longevity of Jameer Gibbs, and I think is just a pivotal thing.
Yeah, and before we get into the defensive side fully, I want to piggyback off on that and talk about coaching. Because I know, Coach, you want to talk about the coaching in this as well. Is I loved it, and when the Lions got that turnover in the third quarter and they scored a touchdown 2 plays later, that one was to Tesla where they had Gibbs running around the back there and they passed it. My uncle texted me. He's like, "I'm surprised the Lions didn't run the ball there more." And I said, "So is Dallas." And Tesla got the touchdown. It's like the Lions did go a little pass heavy at times, but the coaching staff, I think, James talked about, you got some moving parts on that offensive line. Certain things haven't been working. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? So you have to make adjustments. And coach, talk to us about some of the coaching things you saw in this game.
Well, here's the thing: is we threw the ball 34 times and ran the ball 22 times. What is Dallas's defense against the pass? Horrible. So we use that, and they attacked that situation. The other thing too, I think about, from coaching standpoint, first carry. Okay, Gibbs gets 3 yards, 2 yards. A good coach is now saying, okay, we got to get halfback. So if he gets two, right, it's 2nd and 8. So if you get 4 on the next one, half back, now you're at 3rd and 4. That opens up our passing game. That opens up our run game. I think Dan Campbell put an unbelievable game plan together, and we stayed on schedule for the most part. There was one where Gibbs got caught in the backfield on the one and things like that, but for the most part, we stayed ahead of the sticks. We stayed on schedule. We weren't into those 2nd and 10s. We were into those 2nd and 8s. Those are good plays. People going, oh my God, we want 5.2 yards a carry because that's what he averages. It's not going to happen. And I think that's the thing that people have to understand when you look at that. Then the couple other things added to the scheme. We throw the pass to Skipper. Everybody's like, what are we throwing? You know what? It's a ploy. It's working down the road, you guys. Oh my God, we bring Cunningham in. He runs a shot. Well, didn't we run Wildcat with Monty earlier in the year and throw for a touchdown and throw for a pass? We're building off of that. Now we have a guy who played quarterback who can run like a deer. It's all about down the road. We didn't go back to it. We may have needed it. We didn't need to go back to it. The Rams may see Cunningham if he's still up. They may see him at quarterback and Wildcat, and now we're going to throw a ball out of it. So just the stuff they did, even though the Skipper thing didn't work out well and the Cunningham thing didn't work out well, either they're only gaining 2 yards on first down, yet we still got first down, yet we still moved the chain. So the offensive game plan was awesome, smooth, and we got the lead. We started with the lead. We didn't lose the lead, and now we're a better football team.
Yeah, playing the game with a lead for the change really changes because it allows you to dictate a lot of those things. And you're right. I love the creativity aspects because it makes the other team have to game plan for more things. And that slows you down when you have to think about something versus just react to it. James, what do you have on coaching?
I liked how in the passing game that aside from the passes to the tight ends, everybody averaged over 10 yards a catch.
Yeah.
You don't see that much. Jamison was 13.7. St. Brown was 15.3. Gibbs 11, Taslaw 10, and Montgomery averaged 13 because they had one catch for 13. But that's just a pretty impressive, I think, way to do it, and spreading the ball around very, very well too. I mean, Williams with 7 catches, St. Brown 6, Gibbs 7, and then sprinkle in a couple of those other guys. I thought that maybe Dwelly would be a little bit more involved after he had that one early catch, but then they pretty much didn't go back to him after that.
And Fister made, he had a catch too, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, he had 1 for 7.
Yeah.
I just thought that maybe Dwelly would get some more
Yeah.
after that one early one. That
All right. Well, this is where I don't know if you look at the final score and you see 30 points scored by the Dallas Cowboys, you might not credit the Lions defense as much as we're going to, I have a feeling. But this was a great defensive effort by the Detroit Lions. It wasn't without flaws, it wasn't without errors, it wasn't without injury. But they forced 3 turnovers in this game, scored 14 points off of those. And as coach already talked about, the other one led to victory formation. The first half defense held the Dallas Cowboys to 3 field goals. 9 points at halftime with a healthy CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and George Pickens and Javonte Williams all on the field, and a healthy Dak Prescott. That right there sets your offense up to not be stressed and sets you up for a very competitive second half that you can allow some mistakes in. Coach, talk to me about the defense.
Two things. First of all, 5 field goals, one a 63-yarder, 1 for 3 in the red zone, and a blown coverage where Meek tried to jump an under route. Okay. So if you take away that blown coverage, where's the score? Okay. We won by 14, right? Where's the score from that? So I think that's a couple of things you think about. We looked more like the bend don't break defense. Yeah, we were still aggressive because we kept them on. Our red zone defense has been pretty shaky all year. Our red zone defense stood up this year, and we made big plays in big situations. So I think those are a couple of things you want to look at. You know, we held Williams to 3.94 yards a carry. We made them throw. I can't remember how many passes did he have? 41?
47.
47. Thank you. You know, so we're making him throw that. And I tell you, one of the best schemes I saw, and you know, a lot of people reporting on it, I kind of watched it and stuff like that, was on third down, there was either double or bracketed coverage on their 2 good receivers. So that's the big thing on that. We didn't allow them. We allowed the one splash, you know, where we blew the coverage, but everything we kept in front of them. You're not going to hold CeeDee Lamb down, and I'm sorry to hear about his injury. Hopefully he's back soon. You know, you don't want to see that happen to anybody. And you know, everybody, he's got 6 carries for 112 yards. He's tearing us up. No, he didn't get. He wasn't getting in the end zone, and that was the biggest thing I thought. And Shep dialed up some unbelievable pressures. I think a lot of it was that 3-man, you know, normally when they get in their pass defense, you know, got a 3 front. I think we brought 2, make it 5, you know, 3 plus the 2. And then there was a couple 6-man, you know, 3-man blitzes with that. Again, use Trevor more, use Rodrigo more. And just there were so many different things for energy. And then, you know, again, when it came to shove, our defensive line did an unbelievable job, of course, with 3 sacks by our sack leader and Hutch. I thought Hutch played his best game in his career for us, all around, guys. I was so happy with him. You know,
he was good on the run defense too.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so. Yeah, there's so many cool things in that what Shep did with that defense to keep them out of the end zone in critical situations.
Yeah, they're mixing up the looks. I swear I saw a 4-4 formation at one point.
Yeah.
They were definitely bringing more guys to get pressure. Al-Qadim Muhammad, the Lions PR people put this out. He is only the 3rd Detroit Lions player in history to have at least 2.5 sacks in multiple games in the same season, joining Ezekiel Anza back in 2017 and the recently Pride of the Lions inductee Robert Porcher from back in 1999. So, I mean, Muhammad said he got challenged this week by the coach to win his one-on-ones. They gave him more snaps in this game. It's hard to get as much when you don't have as many snaps, but they trusted him more. James, talk to me a little bit more about this defenses and the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, of the 5 top PFF grades for the Lions on defense, 4 of them are the defensive line. Hutchinson 90.1, Reader 84.2, Tyleik Williams 79.6, and Muhammad 79.1. The only other the only other one in the top five was Avante Maddox, he had the best PFF score of anybody on the defense with
Wow.
90.3.
What does that tell you? The guy didn't even start the football game.
Yeah. I think that not playing Aleem at defensive end made a difference.
Mhm.
They got more pressures. They were able to put Aleem more back inside, which helped enable them to rotate their defensive tackles more, keep them more fresh. And you saw Reader had a better game because of that. And then, Hutch had 10 pressures by himself. 10.
Wow.
The Lions only gave up 9 as a team. He had more pressures than the Lions allowed just by himself. And the only sack that the Cowboys got was by one James Houston.
But James Houston bookended his performance perfectly because his last play was a 15-yard penalty on Jared Goff.
Yes, yes. Mhm. And they,
So,
snap counts going into that. Davenport had 39 snap counts. Muhammad had 38. Aleem had 60. So again, and
Mhm.
Robinson,
wow.
of course, then you talk about linebackers and stuff like that. Yeah, Liam's been and again, I don't think they put him outside as much, but again, the front, let's go into Trevor. Trevor had 14 defensive snap counts, so, and then Rodrigo, I think, Rodrigo, he only had two. I look, well, he made two
Mhm.
plays. I thought he had more, but again, they went to that package where they use give Barnes a little bit of rest, let Trevor come in and get some pressure where he can drop in. It becomes that extra bigger linebacker, and I just think they weren't gave those guys all the snap counts and they produced every Wheat only had 7, but I saw him in a couple plays. I was like, who is that? And it's just great stuff defensively.
All right. Well, we talked offense, we talked defense. We would be doing a disservice if we didn't talk about one of the guys who got the game ball, deservedly so. I said it last week. I didn't give him enough props. I am now campaigning that Tom Kennedy needs to be a permanent kick returner the rest of this season for the Detroit Lions. And if Raymond's not in there, Kennedy's our punt returner too. Because man, I don't know what it is, James, but this is the best look we've seen all year. One of my buddies like, who is that guy returning your kicks? As in, like, he was slighting us, and I'm like, he is doing things that we haven't seen all year. So, I was pretty impressed. I think everybody is, and he got a game ball for it, James. It's a difference
Mhm.
maker, and it's definitely some much delayed excitement for us to kind of talk about the special teams return game.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a big special teams game since like what, the Titans game last year.
Mhm.
So it's been quite a long time, aside from Jake Bates and Jack Fox, of course.
Yeah, and
But the return units.
yeah, we had one punt return by Raymond, but otherwise
Yeah,
it's been a lot of missing.
yeah, yeah. And Kennedy is the first NFL player since Josh Cribbs in 2007 to have 3 kick returns of 35 or more yards and a punt return of 20 or more yards in a game.
Mhm.
And let's point
So,
something out here. A 35-yard kickoff return was more common, I believe, in 2007 than it
Mhm.
is today with the current kick return, the formation or the kickoff thing. So, and if you're
Mhm.
comparing a return guy to Josh Cribbs, that's not too bad. He was a decent returner for a little while.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, the stats for kick returns are completely different now than they were before because one, you're not returning it from the end zone, so you're not getting credit for those extra yards from bringing it out of the end zone because you can't.
Yep.
Uh, and so and the other team starts, halfway in your territory, so
Yeah.
it's pretty hard to get those 30. I mean, it used to be 30-yard returns were kind of that was what you kind of expected
Yeah.
a lot of the time for the really good guys like Josh Cribbs and those Hester for the Bears and stuff like that. But yeah, you don't see those kind of numbers with the new kickoff now.
Coach, what is the difference here? I mean, I'm not, Tom Kennedy has done something that nobody else has been able to do in that position, and they've tried a few different characters there. And I know it doesn't just come down to the return guy; it's a whole thing. But what looked different? And this is 2 weeks in a row, so maybe it's a trend.
Well, the big thing was scheme. That shouldn't be the big thing, but Tom Kennedy is relentless. He's on one of those wavelengths. Those guys that don't care. So he was hitting at full speed. But I think Phipp did a great job scheming them up with Aubrey kicking to the boundary that way, and we just took it up the sidelines. And I think we walled it well on that side. So, and again, Tom Kennedy hit the seams. There's no break. Then the nice thing is he's been around for so long that he's probably seen everything. And he's again another guy that's given an opportunity, just like Frazier. I know you guys are going to talk about him, but they're given an opportunity. Then they're given and they produce with that opportunity. And I think that's the biggest thing. I want to touch base too on the kickoff team. I know we don't want to jump ship because we're talking special teams, but the scheme there was also very, very well done. They have a pretty good returner over there. That guy, Turpin guy, is pretty fast. And
Yeah.
the way we kicked the ball, the way we had lane integrity, we always sat a guy for his cutbacks and stuff. There's guys that were coming downfield and didn't attack him, but waited for him, and they may have been waiting for him inside the 30. And so I think we took our special teams to a new level on both sides of the ball, and I think it's going to pay dividends over. And yeah, it's going to be hard pressed for them not to keep Kennedy up somehow because of just what he's done. And James even said first time in the NFL history, I believe, right? 33, 35 pluses in a 20-yard kickoff.
Since Cribs back in '07. Yeah.
Yeah. So just amazing, man. Just amazing. And hats off to the special teams unit. We won that hidden yardage chart, no doubt about that.
Yeah, the Lions actually averaged 7.5 yards more per return.
Huge.
Dallas had 7 returns, Lions had 8 returns. So you actually had a decent chunk of space to measure all that with multiple returns. It wasn't just 1 or 2. And so let's go back to the offensive line though a little bit because you kind of started about that, Coach James. You got some stuff on the offensive line. I mean, none of the offense goes without the offensive line, and they got creative up there. They did a lot of good things.
Yeah, I love that Dan Skipper played 23 snaps as the extra tackle. Coach mentioned that they threw the ball to him once. It didn't really go for much of anything, but it's just another thing that teams have to look forward to is setting up something else for later down the season, down the road, like Jerry said. So I really like when they put Skipper and the jumbo package in. It's just always seemed to have paid dividends, and going back to what works for you is a pretty basic thing to do, but I love that they're doing it.
I mean, he's not a small guy, so he's going to move people out of the way. And so that helps. And then in addition to that they got a rookie getting some reps in as well, Coach. And the announcer said, Cologne's given up 4 pressures on 7 pass attempts, so he's been benched. Well, he wasn't benched. Campbell said they had planned to rotate Frazier in. Now, Frazier did have a couple of false starts in the game, but he also looked pretty competent, and the offensive line in general gave Goff a decent amount of time to pass and whatnot. So, Coach, what are your thoughts? You can add about Skipper if you want, but then also get us in on the Frazier thing. It's kind of the time when they did Mahogany last year. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but if you can get this guy to contribute, we know we could use the depth.
Well, and again, I don't know if you guys saw the play where the defensive lineman tried to jump to block a pass.
Yes.
Oh my God, did Frazier bury that dude?
That guy fell on his back so hard that he will think 3 times before doing that again.
I mean, he's a dog. Cologne does a good job. And Skipper, again, let's talk about, we're going to talk about Cologne and Skipper real quick. So we go extra on that Gibbs outside run where we run that, where he walks into the end zone. I think he stopped and walked in from the 3-yard line because there's nobody around. But again, we ran that to the extra lineman side, and we pulled Cologne from the backside, who came around and just pinned a corner. I mean, that just beautiful, and that's why Cologne's getting reps. Yeah, they're learning, but let's go back to the Frazier concept now too. So they're going to give him some reps. Cologne can come to the sidelines. They can talk about him, not just when the defense on the field, but now they can talk to him and say, hey, see how this play is going? Look at, oh my God, this is what we're running, and walk him through some things, maybe calm him down a little bit. Frazier comes in and holds his own, And you always tell people like this, when you get 1 rep, make them give you 2. When you get 3, make them give you 4 and 5. Frazier did exactly that. He came in and balled out, and they said, let's run him again. And now he has some game experience. Now the guy he missed all of training camp. He's just come back, and we get reps out of him like that. And again, and another point is when you set up your defense against, okay, Cologne, we can rip him, we can dip inside, we can club him. The defensive line that's going against him has to come up with his strategy to beat Cologne. Well, now all of a sudden you got some Neanderthal, and Frazier, just a mean, nasty guy that, well, wait, I can't do that to him. And people found that out. I mean, those are all things. I watched a ton of Frazier coming out, a ton of film on Frazier coming out of college, scouting film on him through it with another guy. And he's one of those guys that, man, he's gonna be a player for us. So kudos to all those guys and getting the job done in a do or die game is just phenomenal to see.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little carried away with the excitement there when you were talking about Frazier and that block on that linebacker, because I just watching that was exciting and awesome. And again, that's what the Lions offensive linemen need to do. James, you had a little bit more you want to share on Frazier as well.
Yeah, one of the interesting things, I see on message boards, online message boards, a lot of people critical of Brad Holmes and the whole traded 3 third round picks for Taslaw, but it was actually 3 low third round picks because two of them were the compensatory ones for Aaron Glenn. And they got 2 6th-round picks back. One of those 6th-round picks turned into Miles Frazier.
There you go.
That thing can't. They might know what they're doing. Anyway.
Yeah. So they got another 6th-round pick coming out of that. So I mean, it's like really it's 3/3 for Taslaw, Frazier, and another pick or two, and that also bringing Taslaw in allowed them to trade Tim Patrick and pick up another 7th. So you've got that. But so yeah, he saw 26 snaps. Frazier did. Cologne played 36. They alternated kind of back and forth, like you mentioned. I know one of Jerry's favorite things is PFF ratings, especially for offensive linemen and interior defensive linemen. They were incredibly hard on Miles Frazier, gave him a 23.2 rating, which that doesn't register with what I saw on the field. And they gave Cologne a 59.2, which is not great either. Both of those are 2 of the 5 lowest that the Lions had for the game.
If Frazier got 26 reps from the Detroit Lions from Hank Fraley and Dan Campbell, I think his grade's probably just a little bit higher than what PFF has him. Only that much, though.
Pretty sure.
Anyways, never mind. We're going to leave it alone.
All right. Well, what we don't want to leave alone is Roaster Jack Coffee, folks. We want to thank them for supporting the show. Let you know you want to order fresh roasted coffee. Go to roasterjack.com, use the code LIONS, and we'll get you 20% off the order. All right. Game wasn't perfect, right? It was pretty darn good, but there were some issues. The officiating theme just never seems to go away. Now, the safety call, here's the crazy thing is it's like they intentionally riled everybody up and showed all the angles and then showed the call and then kept going. And then they've come back and felt like they probably felt like they had to give another angle. Otherwise, there was going to be some sort of a riot that took place. And they did show that, I mean, I'm still saying it's super close. Even with that other angle, James, it's real close. I don't know how you overturn it, but you did. Fair enough. It's just, it felt like another thing was going to happen. And that wasn't the only play that happened in this. The other thing was, I think it might have been Sailors on a kick return. After he goes down to the ground, Dallas Cowboy grabs his head and like knocks him on the ground again. And it seems like if that had been a Lions player doing that, a penalty of 15 yards would have been thrown on the Lions. And I didn't get to see the replays very well because they didn't show a lot. It looked like the Cowboys jumped off sides. Goff thought they did. They went for a free play. I've known coaches like Tony Anise who thought he had a free play in a bowl game, and it was never called, and then Lions had to punt, right? So there's that. There are a couple pass interference things, which, again, that was kind of negligible where it didn't really even matter. So anybody complaining that the Cowboys got called for offensive pass interference, the Lions declined it anyway, so it didn't matter. But it just the officiating narrative wasn't silenced in this one, James.
No, I mean, eventually, the one photo, the still photo that I saw of the safety call made it look like they got it right, that the ball was just outside,
Yeah.
um, at the time of contact and stuff. Uh, so, so they got that one right for once, uh, against the Lions. I think, yeah, I saw the same thing that you saw on the guy that jumped that should have been a false start or should have been offsides where he went for the free play. So they missed that one. And then they called, I think, a roughing the passer on Goff, on a hit on Goff that I was kind of like that didn't seem like really a roughing the passer, but I'll take it.
Well, I'm glad they called the offensive face masking when Rocky Sin got a face mask to his face, or a face to his face
Mhm.
mask, or a hand to his face mask. Um,
Yeah. And Amon-Ra St. Brown drew a defensive pass interference call too, which is the
oh yeah,
second that they have gotten this season.
yes, and they had to draw that one, Coach. Otherwise, that defensive back was going to give up a touchdown to St. Brown.
Yes, yeah. Well, and you go back to it. I got, the Hutch, the push the Hutch's face mask on the big pass player, the pass interference, which would have brought
Oh
down.
yeah, that one too. Forgot about that
But
one.
that was a huge one there. Here's the other one, and I don't know if you even want to notice it, but they false started on Brian Branch is the one he got injured, and they didn't call it. So Brian Branch, that play does not happen. And but anyways, not that we're going to put salt in the wound. And then the big one is the one on Anzalone and Schultz, the tight end. And everybody's complaining that should not have been interference. It should be defense interference, stuff like that. But if you look at it, he slingshot, and Anzalone came out immediately about it. So he's reading social media and came out immediately about it and said, you're not allowed to slingshot a guy, and he did. He grabbed Anzalone's shoulder pad and pulled him
Yep.
through to get the swim move. Okay, and so you know, whatever. I'm good. It's just at least a couple of them balanced for us in that situation. But the Anzalone one, it's an offensive pass interference. The block by what you call it on the pick play. Okay, that
Oh
was a
yeah.
pass. It was a pick play. So yeah, some of those. But again, there's always one or two in every game that just could have determined a win or loss for our Lions.
And I'm
And
glad it didn't happen this week.
yes, yes.
Yeah. You brought it up. We got to talk about it. The Brian Branch injury.
Oof.
Harper was already out with a concussion. And so he left the game early. Avonte Maddox had to come in for him, as James talked about. Super high PFF grade. I think the highest on the defense, played extremely well. He was running around a little bit like Brian Branch out there when he
Mhm.
came in.
Mhm.
It's being reported that Brian Branch has an Achilles. I haven't looked at anything later in the day, but that's what had been reported earlier. The Lions are still waiting on Kirby Joseph to come back. We do have some other injuries in the secondary. Terry Arnold is out at this point as well for the season. James, what do you have on this and where this kind of leaves the Lions in the secondary?
Well, I mean, they do have the luxury that Avante Maddox and guys like Rocky Sin have come in and played very well for these guys that have been out. So, they'll get Arnold back at some point, potentially towards the end of the season. So that's good. They've got Reed back, who's playing very well. And they need to get Kirby back. I mean, if you can exchange Kirby for Joseph, at least maybe that kind of takes some of this thing out of that.
You said exchange Kirby for Joseph.
For Branch. Yeah,
I know
sorry.
what you meant. I know what you meant.
Uh, and yeah, it was. I saw there was confirmation that it was a torn Achilles tendon.
Yeah. All right. And I was trying to
So
take Sting out of the conversation by making light of that. So
so yeah,
it
so I
hurts.
mean,
That hurts when you saw that news come over Twitter
it,
today, right?
yeah, it hurts, and I mean that's going to put him out well into next season. I mean you're talking maybe being lucky to come back at the end of next season. So that's a huge blow. I wouldn't be surprised. They've got kind of a long week now with playing on Thursday, so they could maybe bring in somebody and get them up to speed a little bit more than if they were playing on a regular Sunday to Sunday type schedule. So if they want to go that route and bring somebody else in, um, they could possibly do that. I wouldn't be surprised if they took a look at Justin Simmons, who's still a free agent. He's been a Pro Bowler twice, 32 years old, but and or Darnell Savage, who was just released from the Commanders, I think it was. Used to play for the Packers. Was a pretty solid safety, and is still only 28. And in game shape because he's been playing this year for the Commanders. So I wouldn't be surprised if they look at those guys, but they like Daniel Thomas, they like Harper. Um, with the long week, I think it's pretty reasonable that they could get Harper back for the next game. So get him to pass all the concussion protocol stuff. So, and then they've got Maddox, they've got Yasin can play there if needed, but they need him at corner. But I think he'll be looking at some more
Yeah.
special team or some more practice squad guys too that they'll
Yeah.
be
Eric
bringing in.
Hallett's on the practice squad still. He might be a guy that they're
Mhm.
going to be bringing back up. Um,
Or a dark horse, Sion Vaki, who played safety in college.
He
I
went,
doubt it.
oh,
he went
I
down
doubt
on
it.
special teams again.
he did get hurt on special teams
Yeah.
yesterday
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
TA's done for the year.
yep. TA's
Yeah.
done.
TA's done for the year.
Hmm.
And, off of that too, you guys, Maddox, that play he made on the little, it was a jet sweep when he come out from nowhere on a 4 yard.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about, Coach.
That play, you talked about it. I mean, that play. So Maddox was on a Super Bowl championship team last year. Maddox could play down in the box. I think Maddox can be your branch, and then, if Kirby comes back, because
Mhm.
Branch said that Harper's a mini Kirby. So it sounds like we may be fairly deep in that situation. And then there's a couple guys on practice squads too that we could snatch. A couple guys that have played numerous games. I can't remember their names. I think one of the beat writers for the Lions put a list together of guys that we could possibly. Justin Rogers, I think, put it together.
Okay.
So I'm not. Yeah, take a look at that. I can't remember the names again. That's not us. But so I think we're. Again, Kirby's been out and Harper's filled in well, and Branch is out. We can't replace. You're never going to replace. Our tight ends are out. We can't replace the tight ends are out, but we do what we do to make sure people play to their strength, and I think that's what the Lions are going to do. Maddox is how excited were you last year when they signed Maddox, you guys? And Sin too. During the preseason, we
Oh,
talked.
I was actually quite excited about that depth
Yeah.
because those were known quantities, guys who had
Yes.
actually had success in the NFL.
Yes, and there's a couple guys I talked to today was like, I didn't even know you guys had Maddox on your roster, and I said, yeah. So excuse me. So again, it's not, and if the front seven can do what they've been doing, what they did in this last game, we're going to hide some of those flaws, and so I mean, it's sad. It's oh my God, when I think I text you guys today. I can't wait for the day when we're rooting for the Lions full health. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen, and still rooting for the Lions.
Yeah, yeah. And so one other thing I got to add to that I didn't like, which I almost escaped me, is Jake Bates tackling the kick return, man.
God,
I mean, he actually got evaluated for a
I
concussion,
know.
you guys. And if you lose Jake Bates, you're losing quite a weapon. And this isn't the first time he's had to try to make a tackle. And so let's just try and get the ninth or 10th guy there so the 11th guy doesn't have to do it. Because that looked painful and it looked like he was down for a moment.
Mhm.
All right. Play of the game. James, you want to get us started?
I'm going to go with the Isaac Taslaw touchdown, putting them up 27-9, and just putting them in control in that game, having the Cowboys have to chase from there on out. I just think that really changed the outlook of the game. The Lions led from the get-go, but this just putting it into a 2-3 score margin here,
Yeah.
made it that changed things in the game, I think.
All right. Coach, you said you got a good one. I've
Well,
got
I
a good
do.
one,
I
I
got a
think,
couple.
too.
I know you said one, but I got to hit two. Okay. First of all, the second and 10 when we're trying to run the clock out and we run the pass play to St. Brown.
Yeah.
That play was just, and again, that's late, but the game was close and we broke it open there. But I think that, well, still like the Saint one, the first catch, but the acceleration, deceleration on JMO on that freaking stop route if you watch that play, he took him inside like he's going to run the fade, and then he ran the stop and came back.
Yeah.
Goff let the ball go. JMO turned and the ball just about smoked him in the chest. And that play, and actually, there's a guy on social media said JMO would have 2,000 yards this season if he had a better quarterback. Oh my God, people just stay off social media. Anyways, and he
Yeah.
got hammered, which was good. But that play,
Yeah.
again, it's not the play of the game situation, but it's a play that says, oh my God, for the next 4 games, what do we do with JMO? How much he has grown from that. And I'm just looking at that play for the next, the next 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, 7 games, 8, something like that. Anyways, but
All
yeah,
right.
sorry
Well,
I listed a couple, but I was pretty excited about those.
I'm going with JMO as well. There was a certain play that jumped out to me, and when I kind of just thought back, and there was 8 minutes and 26 seconds left in the fourth quarter. The Lions were up 30-27. It's 3rd down and 6 for the Lions at their own 45-yard line. You know what third downs have been like. Well, Goff hit JMO for a 29-yarder first down. 2 plays later, it's a Gibbs touchdown. If the Lions don't pick up that 3rd down and 6, you might be punting the ball. And so then it's like, wait a minute, Dallas gets the ball. They had just scored in there. Now they're going to get the ball back. It's a 3-point game. So, again, great work by Goff, by JMO. Big time play, big time moment, and kept the chains moving.
Was that the one where he came back where Goff had the pressure on?
Goff
And
had pressure, and JMO was cutting
JMO
across.
kind of worked himself back even more because Goff couldn't get as much on it. Yeah, that was huge too. So,
All right. So, major storyline. Where does this leave the Lions? Well, it keeps them in the hunt. That's the basic part of it, right? They had to win this game to stay in the hunt. They basically had to go 4-1. They have to go 4-1. They've won one game though, to have a really good chance of making the playoffs. But if they lost the game to Dallas, that would force them to go 4-0. And if they couldn't beat the Dallas game at home or win it, you were going to have some doubts of whether they could get the job done. They got it done. Now let's just kind of lay it out right here. The Bears are 2 games up on them in the division, and so are the Packers, basically, right? It's a game and a half, but it's basically 2 games. After this week, one of those 2 teams, because they play each other, will still have a 2-game lead on the Lions with 4 games to go, and one of them will shrink to only a single game, barring a tie, of course. So those of you for playing at home, everything is technically on the table, okay? So there is a chance. There's a chance at anything and everything. Not making the playoffs, making the playoffs as a wild card. Oh, and there is still a path to the division title, okay? But take it 1 week at a time. James, the Lions needed that win to help their playoff chances. I'm not rooting for anybody this week because I don't even know how it's all going to fall. I'm going to just root for the Lions to get healthy, and we'll maybe start rooting in a week or two. But tell me what some of your thoughts are on where this leaves the Lions.
Maybe we should root for a whole bunch of ties with other.
No,
with
ties
everybody.
always hurt things in the NFL, if you ask me. And I think they should go to the college rules because there's only 16 games or 17 games. There's not enough games for ties. So, but that's a whole nother tangent.
I
So,
agree. I think the college overtime rule would be great in the NFL, but that's for a separate
yes.
episode. We should have just an episode. It's just talking about what rules we want.
We might do that this offseason. I like that idea.
Or something. Yeah. The Lions' playoff chances coming into this game were 44%. Winning this game, they're up to 50.6%. So a little over 50-50. I will take it. Hurting Brian Branch obviously hurts, but the Lions' playoff chances are still pretty decent, and they have their own destiny in their own hands.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've got their path to winning it. And I don't even care about I'm going to quote Han Solo and say, never tell me the odds, because I don't care about these percentages. I care about the eyeball test on what I saw on the field. I saw a team that was playing like a team that was together. Adversity, going win, loss, didn't break them apart, coach. And they came together and they made the plays when the plays needed to be made in this game. And so, How are you feeling? Where does this leave the Lions in your mind?
3 day rest, which will be awesome. 10 days before their next game. I think the biggest thing is we got to stack wins. The guys have all said it. You always say that. We were 2-3 in the month of November. Okay. We haven't been that way since 2021 or something like that. And I think that's the biggest thing. But it's an opportunity to grow and an opportunity for a team that just did something with their backs against the wall. And I think the you keep hearing playoff games. Every week is a playoff game, and usually those are the scariest teams because they're going to be fighting for it. And so I think that's where it leaves them. We got to get this win, coming up a week from Sunday. But it'll be awful nice to sit back and relax and watch our opponent, which is, I think, is a big thing too, when you get to watch your opponent in the game situation, and then of course in your tape situation. So, but again, we're driving the car right now. We got our foot on the gas. Let's make sure we stay, between the lines and get to the finish line.
Yeah. And so they've got to win 3 out of the final 4, right? And if they win all 4, they're in the playoffs. We know that's happening. But, and like I say, we know, I think there's percentages in the way things can play out that it might not happen. But if you're going back against the Han Solo thing, the odds are we're in. The Rams game is the one that is the toughest opponent yet. I mean, I know you've got the Steelers and you've got the Vikings. You go to the Bears to finish the season, and that Bears game might not be easy either. It's at the Bears and they're winning games. If you want to see what the Packers have going on, they got the Bears twice, the Broncos, the Ravens, and the Vikings, right? The Broncos and the Vikings are not going to be pushovers, and I don't even know what the Vikings are, but they're at home. So that'll be an interesting one. The Bears, they have the Packers, the Browns, the Packers, the Niners, and the Lions. So nothing's off the table. Anything's possible yet. Any of the scenarios are out there. Don't try to do all the calculations. It's too far out. There's too many variables. Like Coach said, we got to go 1-0. I tell you this, though, if the Lions manage to get a win against the Rams, all those calculations can go up in the air, and it's all on. Because we got to stack those wins, and that becomes a game changer. So, all right, guys, it's been an hour, so we got to wrap this thing up. James, final thoughts before we get out of here.
That like you said, that Rams game is just going to be huge. If they can get a win in that one, that will be a huge momentum boost because like you said, it's probably the best team on their schedule of the ones left. So you win that one, that gives you a huge confidence and momentum boost going into those other 3. If they can win these last 4, they're pretty much in.
Right.
If they win 3 of the 4, they're pretty much in. But if they win all 4, I think there's not much of a scenario where they don't make the playoffs. And winning that Rams game could be the springboard to doing that.
All right, Coach, how about you? Final thoughts?
Stack, stack, stack.
Yep. And Coach, you're exactly right. Lions haven't won those back-to-back games since, was it October or something like that? It's been a long time. And so if they can win one, and then we'll get into that next week as we preview that one, but that starts to become a game changer. It builds the confidence. And we've said, hey, there is no team that is without a flaw in the NFL this year, especially at this time of the season. So even though the Lions are not a perfect team, they're in the conversation. And if they can get the crescendo going as the season starts to wrap up, if they can get in the dance, there is a chance. All right, folks, we want to say thank you to Roaster Jack Coffee Company for roasting incredible beans. If you use the code LIONS at roasterjack.com, gets you 20% off your order. Thank you for tuning in. Please tell your friends and family about the show. You can find us on social media, all major streaming platforms, as well as YouTube. Love to hear your thoughts and reviews. Please check out more episodes and content at notthesameoldlions.com. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.